Good morning. It is Sunday, and I'm going to try to rush in here real quick and give you that thought for the day. I apologize yesterday. I kind of skipped a day. Please don't get upset with me, but I had a very good reason for that. We were doing some outreach work with the church. I was writing a theology report. I had a lot of stuff going on, and I simply lost track of time, and then boom, time was gone. So I am going to try to jump back into James, where we were going, and try to continue with that. Excuse my dog barking in the background. It's anytime I try to do something, there's always an interruption from animals. You know me, you've watched these videos, you know this is going on. I'm going to start by quickly reading this passage of James where we left off. We left off in chapter 3. And so where we're going to start up is verse 13. And this is talking about how true wisdom comes from God. If you are wise and understand God's ways, prove it by living an honorable life, doing good works with the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you are bitterly jealous and there is self-ambition in your heart, don't cover up the truth with boasting and lying, for jealousy and selfishness are not God's kind of wisdom. Such things are earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For wherever there is jealousy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and evil of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure. It is peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism and is always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness. So there are two different sides to this passage of Scripture. And the reason I have struggled with this is because there's so much information packed in here, and I just don't have time to go through all of it, and that frustrates me because I want to go into depth, but I'm not going to. But there are two sides of this. First, he talks about how godly wisdom, he defines it for you. He defines exactly what godly wisdom is, and he defines what worldly wisdom is, and the results of each of these things. So, to save time, I made a little list of the points, and I would just quickly hit the highlights of this, right? Okay, so first of all, we're going to find out, we're going to define what godly wisdom is, okay? Godly wisdom, first of all, number one, is pure. That's the first thing he talks about. For without purity, it's not coming from God. Secondly, godly wisdom is peaceable. If you compromise purity for the sake of peace, you're not acting in godly wisdom. You have to have both of these things. All these things are working together to produce godly wisdom. Godly wisdom is gentle. There's a lot of controversy over how this word was translated because of the different Greek meanings for this word. This is what happens when I try to go fast. I get tongue-tied. One of the definitions, and I will just read this straight to you, is gentleness is someone who knows how to forgive when strict justice gives him a right to condemn. So in other words, you have the right to condemn someone, but you choose to forgive, and that is a sign of gentleness. There's a lot of controversy over how this word was translated, and I don't have time to go into all that right now. Fourthly, godly wisdom is reasonable. It doesn't mean it's gullible. It means reasonable. There is a difference. I urge you to study this. Number 5, godly wisdom is full of mercy and good fruits. Now, if you want to understand the good fruits, check out the Beatitudes in Matthew. This will give you an idea of where you're going with that. So, number 6, godly wisdom is unwavering. Big word there, unwavering. Number 7, this is a biggie. Godly wisdom is without hypocrisy. That is a huge thing going on with a lot of people. Hypocrisy is also a Greek word, and it was used to describe actors in a play. They wore a mask to cover up who they were, and that's where the word hypocrisy came from. So when in doubt, if you're trying to figure out what this word means, think of a mask covering up who you really are. And we're warned not to do that. So now we've established the points for godly wisdom. Let's check out what worldly wisdom entails. Worldly wisdom is rooted in bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. Those are two negative traits that lead to no good. Bad things. Secondly, worldly wisdom is arrogant. Another big thing that a lot of people are not going to want to hear, because sometimes you might think there's a fine line between being confident and arrogant. But if you will study this, and I wish I had time to go into it, like I said, but I don't. Number 3, worldly wisdom lies against the truth. Number 4, worldly wisdom is earthly, natural, and demonic. That's a scary thought, that you're doing something that's demonic, of Satan. And 5th, worldly wisdom results in disorder and every evil thing. So he's clearly explaining to us how when you have godly wisdom, your life is full of blessings. But worldly wisdom leads to evil. And during this time, the church, James was writing to the church because the church was in total dissension. They're arguing, they're at each other, they're coming at each other, they're basically falling apart. So he's trying to bring them back together in unity. He's not out there talking to a bunch of thugs trying to teach. He's talking to the church. You know, a lot of times we look at the church and we think of it as the ultimate in godliness, but a church is made up of people. And people, we all fail and fall short of the glory of God. We all have to be reminded. When Jesus walked on the earth, he constantly prayed and asked for wisdom and guidance. If Jesus had to pray to constantly renew his spirit, how much more should we be constantly renewing our spirit? We need to be reminded of what we're supposed to be doing, where we're supposed to be headed on this journey, and we need constant guidance from God, from up above. We can't do this by ourselves. So if the church was falling apart and James felt the need to write all of this to pull the church together, how much more do we need to be paying attention to this? We need to unite as a whole. And that's our thought for today.